Today we saw another prominent advocacy group join up with New Yorkers United for Marriage. That is the coordinated campaign headed by Governor Cuomo that aims to get same-sex marriage legalized in the Empire State before the legislative session ends. Now, so far, the organizations signing on to this effort have been fairly predictable and LGBT-oriented, like the Empire State Pride agenda, for example, the Log Cabin Republicans. This new addition is a little bit of an anomaly, at least it was to us. The New York League of Women Voters is a good government group, and they usually eschew social issues to focus on things like ethics reform, which we will also get into in a moment. Joining me to explain the thinking behind today's decision is the League's Legislative Director, Barbara Bartoletti. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So this was unusual for us, but it's actually in keeping with the thinking nationally for the League.
It is, and as you know, Liz, the League is a tri-level organization. We have a national league, a state league, and here in New York, we have over 50 local leagues. So we do a lot of membership study, consensus, and membership understanding. This was an issue that came from several state leagues to the national convention, because you come and you essentially say to your national organization, this is what our members care about. Let's take a position on that. And we did.
That's unusual, or not unusual, but a little bit surprising, because I've been talking to other people about this whole coordinated effort and noting that the Siena poll says, well, 58% of New Yorkers say that they are pro-gay marriage, so that's not so unusual. But when you ask them to rank the issue in terms of importance, they don't put gay marriage and the legalization of gay marriage at the top. It's more like, you know, we'd like to see ethics reform, a property tax cap, etc., so that people came to the national and said, this is something we care about.
This is something important to our members. And don't forget, we're a membership organization. So we actually have members who are interested in the judiciary, or interested in the environment, or interested in women's issues, social policy issues, and certainly government issues and good government reform issues. So this was not unusual for a national convention. We have a position on gun laws.
You do?
Oh, yes. We have a position very strongly against the having of any gun at any time for any reason. We have a gun control position.
Because for the way that we see you most frequently is as
yes, as a good government organization. Yeah. And we do a lot of that. That may say that good government is even more difficult to get, so I spend a lot of my time doing that. But literally, this was an issue that California, New York, a lot of those, you know, the typical states you might imagine, with large memberships of leagues, came to national and said, we have an equality of opportunity national position. We want to fit the the marriage equality, gay rights, so to speak, under that position.
See, but also this is, I mean, just like, I wouldn't say necessarily as intractable as government dysfunction, which of course is like a long-term fight in New York. However, this is a difficult issue in New York, and it's unclear, even with all of this coordinated effort and a very strong governor behind it, it's unclear if it's actually going to get through the Senate. They still, even we tried to work the numbers out, they still seem short a few.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that we wanted to be part of this is that, as I said, we have 50 local leagues, and our members and legislators know this about the league. They know our members vote. And when we take on an issue that we care about, and we do care about this as a fairness issue, as an equal opportunity issue, I think legislators are going to listen because they know our members vote.
So what will you be doing, though? And part of the coordinated campaign is what? I mean, we've seen reports that there will be money raised, for example. I mean, that's not really what your organization does.
No, that's not what we do. But we do things like send out a lot of action alerts. Our members will meet with legislators in their districts. We will express to our legislators, and with a coordinated effort, we will attend press conferences, meet with legislators, as I said. So we will do all the things we would do if we were doing ethics or, you know, campaign finance reform. But our members will express to their legislators the need to have this basic fairness, the need to give all New Yorkers the benefits of loving and committed relationships.
And your outlook for this particular piece of legislation is what?
Well, I think certainly we've done it in the Assembly a couple of times. The League was also on board with Sandra back in 2002, which was Equality of
Sexual
Housing.
Orientation Non-Discrimination Act.
Correct.
Right.
And housing and accommodation, certainly. It all comes under our, equality of opportunity, equal rights for all kind of thing.
Sure.
So we will certainly make our views known to senators. There are a few senators we will target. There are a few we know it doesn't matter how much we do.
Right, like Ruben Diaz.
Like
you might
Ruben
as well
Diaz.
hold your breath
like
until
Ruben
you
Diaz. That
turn
turned blue, and that's
right.
He's not going to change. He's a Pentecostal minister.
But
He
the
isn't gonna
people who
change.
are targeted, if you will, which is probably not the best of term, but some of the people in the suburbs, of course. We see Democrats like Joe Adaba from Queens who voted no, now on the fence. Shirley Huntley, another
That's right.
no, now on the fence. Carl Kruger, ironically, facing a
Roy McDonald,
corruption
right
charge.
here.
Right.
We have a very strong league in Saratoga. We have a very good relationship with Roy McDonald. He's a good guy. I think he will listen to our arguments.
Interesting.
So I think there are a lot of senators, Republicans and Democrats, that I think we might have some influence on.
Okay, so we'll see a lot of action around this particular issue when they return, the legislature returns on Monday. That would be next Monday, of course, because they're taking this extra week.
That's right.
Ethics, there's an update to be had on ethics. Are we moving on ethics at all?
Well, I think there's some sense that, yes, this is the next issue the governor must do. And I think we are coming closer. The negotiations, we're being told, are getting closer. There are going to be some stumbling blocks along the way. I think there are some things that the League would like to see that the Senate or the Assembly or both do not like. We'd like to see more independence. We'd like to see a single unitary entity that would control both the Assembly and the Senate. I don't think the Assembly is going to go for that. I know the Senate isn't going to go for that. These guys really like their seats on the legislative ethics.
Right.
But certainly we think there are going to be more disclosure. At least we certainly have advocated for more disclosure.
When are we going to see it?
I think it's going to be, well, let's look at what else has to be done this session. Rent control and a tax cap has to be done. Ethics has to be done. And we've got, 8 weeks left to go?
Right.
Well, if each of them take 2 or 3 weeks to get out there as program bills, we could see, and we will see rent control. We will see a tax cap.
Well, we have to see rent control because it's a huge downstate issue, which drives the engine in the Assembly Democratic Conference, and it expires.
That's
so
right.
something has to happen.
Right. But there's one thing that we really have to focus on, and that is what the governor has said publicly, that if he doesn't get an ethics bill this year, he will use a Moreland Commission.
Right, that's right.
I would think that legislators would think long and hard before they allow that to happen.
It has subpoena power.
That's
Certainly,
right.
it's not something they want to see.
Can you imagine all of these law firms that these legislators belong to all of a sudden getting subpoenas? I mean, that's probably not something that...
I can imagine it, but it's not something that any of them
want.
right.
And not something their law firms want.
Right. Well, that kind of legal exposure is negative press, and is not something they want.
Right.
So we're going to run out of time, but I just want to talk to you briefly about the departure of Blair Horner from your your sidekick,
my
your good government sidekick.
Blair and I have been together for so many years. It's a marriage without the benefits. Let's call it. I think his wife would be okay with
downside,
or without some of the downside.
Right.
I can always send him home to Lee.
Right.
He has been our guru. He has really been our strategist. He knows this legislature. He has been the good quip that we always needed and all the time you needed. But, he's not going to be far away. We're still going to walk the halls together. I will still be able to, he'll be a phone call away from me saying, well, Blair, what do you think about this? Because I think good government is in Blair's blood, and it isn't going to change. He's going to do all the health care. He's going to be a wonderful asset to the American Cancer Society. Tobacco, he knows, has had his fingers in tobacco for many, many years. So he is going to be an absolute wonderful asset to them. But we're not going to lose him for good.
Well, he was here on the show, and it was a little bit sad. But he keeps insisting that he is not dying, so I get it.
He is not dying.
We will miss him.
And he's a phone call away from me.
Yes, we will miss him. In the meantime, thanks for coming in, Barbara Bartoletti. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having us, Liz.